So the frets are in, and the glue's dried overnight. Again, I think I mentioned before, I just use Type-On 1, and I put it in the slots, so just a little thin piece of veneer, just kind of working it in, and then we wipe it off with a wet rag, so it only leaves it in the slot. Then you go ahead and pound your frets in. I've got a couple of these guys, and you can kind of see this here. I've got a couple of these guys that are a little bit bigger than I'd like to send into my belt sander. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the end nippers that I've got. I'm going to go ahead and take those down as close as I can to the fretboard itself, and then I'm going to go over to the belt sander. And what I'm doing with the belt sander is I'm just taking it and letting it ride up against the side, and I'm just going to flatten those ends, and I'll show you that here in a second. Alright, this is going to be a little difficult to explain with the sander running because it's going to be loud and you're not going to hear me. So you can see the frets are too tall. This side I already did, and I got it pretty darn close. The frets are too tall in here, so you can come back and nip them. But the thing I've noticed with nipping them sometimes is sometimes they'll twist or sometimes they'll pull, and it's just a pain. So I like to do my fretting first, and I take it right over to the belt sander right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it on, and I'm going to turn this thing completely perpendicular, and I'm going to touch the ends of the frets nice and easily. You don't want to dig into this thing. If you dig into it, you can tear it and it can come flying off. So you want to go real carefully, and you want to wear a face shield like if you're doing lathe work. So I'll come in and I'll hit these guys a little bit. Don't go all the way down. Just go ahead and knock off the corners and get them to where they're about even. Then move to the next set that'll fit. Do the same thing all the way down the board. The reason you don't want to do them all at once is you're heating them. You don't want to heat them up, because if you heat them up, you could have problems. I mean, it could change. I don't know if it'll change the coloration on this. I don't think it will. But I just think with the glue in there, you don't want to heat the glue up. You're going to ruin the bond of the glue. I mean, there's a lot of things that go bad when you heat this stuff up too much. So, and the nice thing about the sander is it's coming down in this direction. So it's not going to try to lift the frets out. It's going to continually try to seat them further. So we're not going to have any problems with your frets coming out. So I'm going to turn this on and kind of show you how that goes along. Actually, I'm really getting a lot of chatter on there. It's a lot of grab and drop, and it's because the ends are still uneven, so it's still catching them kind of odd. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move down to my flat piece here, and that'll give me a nice, good bearing edge against, and I'm going to use that to go ahead and touch them against. So we'll move you down just a little bit. So you can see that. And you pretty much just keep doing that until your one edge all the way along is nice and smooth. And then you can come back with a sander and also put the bevel on there. And the way that I'll do that is I'll bring it in here and I'll come in, I'll just tip it. And this you can usually run right along by hand. These are actually pretty wide because it's a base, so I'm going to do these more than likely by hand. I'll just come over with some 220 and just go all the way down and break those sharp corners. Alright. And now that we got this moved down a little bit, what I'm going to do is grab a piece of 100 grit sandpaper. I've got these really, really close, just to the point where I'm about to hit the wood. And I definitely don't want to hit the wood because it's already tapered to the right shape and don't want to mess that up. So what I'm going to do now is just take a piece of sandpaper. And again, this is 100 grit. Use, you know, if you use an 80, a 100, something like that, you're going to be fine. I'm just going to get a nice flat block here and come on the end, and I'm going to go ahead and finish these up. Check as we're going. These starting to feel pretty good. So I'm just going to go all the way along the fretboard like that on both sides, and then I'm going to come back and I'll bevel them so that way they have a nice rounded edge here and it's not as sharp. Alright, so the frets are rounded now, and you can kind of see the edges there a little bit, hopefully. And again, I did this with 100, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back now with some 220, and actually, it's nice because you can run your hand all the way along the edge and you don't really feel anything, which is the way it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to do now is come back with a little bit of 220 to kind of clean up these ends a little bit, and then probably just a little bit of 320 after that, just so that way they don't look like they've been obviously sanded. And I'll go ahead over to the bench and do that now. And again, all I'm doing over here is I got a nice block. It's about 6 inches long, wrapping some paper around it, leaving enough for some ends over here. Otherwise, if you have it inside, you're going to catch on the frets and it's just going to rip. And I just come back like this and just go nice and easy back and forth. And what I did after I put my bevel on there was I just started with the sandpaper like this and kind of worked my way up and over just a little bit, so that way I guarantee that it's perfectly round to the corner here. Don't want anything sticking out. So just come along like this. And get the whole thing down, make them look nice. And do the same thing on the other side. And when you hear it start to sound smooth like that, that's how you know you're all the way down to the board. And if you see any rosewood shavings on your sandpaper, you also know you're down to the board, and you'll probably be able to smell it too. So you don't want to take off too much rosewood, you just want to kind of nick the edges of the board here, so that way even on the fret ends, the edges are just blunted over so that way they're not sharp when you're playing.